All right, hello. We are at the launch event for the Battle Spirit Saga card game. We're with Primitive here, Michael Fladung. Yeah, right there. Oh, wait, where is he? Oh, there he is. He got top 32 this weekend, and what were you playing this weekend?
I'm playing Pterosaur Nova.
Nice. And what made you choose that deck? What did you like about it?
I did a lot of testing before this event with proxies, and I primarily tested mostly Nova for the I guess like tournament format, I guess. Tested a lot of other things, but I was most comfortable with Nova. Going into the event the past couple weeks, the meta shifted a lot and it made it a lot less predictable for me. And so I wanted to go with something that I was a little bit more comfortable in, and so I just adjusted it to kind of fit some of the metagame changes that I saw coming in, just to try to give myself the best shot. And so yeah, I just like the Nova combo.
And it worked out. Top 32 is incredible. 400 people at this event too, and honestly, it's just a wild event for meta and stuff, like all that crazy stuff.
It's a crazy one.
Let's go into your decks then.
Yep, for sure. So we'll go ahead and start off with the Spirits. Now, I am playing the Gagano Rex package, so all of our bottom end is going to be Emperor Beast or Pterosaurs. So starting off, we will have 4 Oviraptidon, which is just a 1-cost vanilla. This is very good for just getting out reductions, because all you need is, if you play a Nexus, you can play this out for free to get a second reduction crystal. 3 cores for 4K. It works really well with things like Scorched Battlefields boost as well. So this card is just very good value for very little.
Yeah, and the 4K means you get out of Burning Force as well, which is actually kind of impactful
being out
too.
of 4K is like one of the most crazy numbers this weekend.
Yeah.
A lot of 4K gets through a lot. Then we have 4 of the Horn Grizzly, and this is just our Confront. I don't play the Blade Dino Parasaur 4-drop just because I preferred this a little bit more, because you can play this turn 1 with your 4 cores, and then next turn you can core it up to be able to get Confront. So I just really like this over the Parasaur. They're both 3-core 5Ks, and so I just liked being able to go first and be able to play this out, set up a Confront, which then makes your opponent have to attack in early, which just buffs up your Nova game plan.
Yeah, I never get draws from Parasaur anyways. It's like once in a while. It's never consistent.
A lot of the times you want to keep the cores on it for BP anyway.
Yeah.
Then we got 3 Bearded Eagle, the absolute MVP. It is just a vanilla with 3-cost 3 reduction, but it is a 2-core 5K, which is just absolutely insane. You have to put like basically no investment to just get a huge wall. I did have a couple times where I put it up to 4 cores for 7K and just be a nice little blocker, but for the most part, being able to just punch for 5K consistently makes it very hard for your opponent to block, and so this card was just really insane. Then we have 2 Dinoman Tyrannoid, and this one, it counts as a level 3 if you have 2 or less spirits. I was playing just one of this up until basically the night before the event and decided to swap a card for another one just for a little bit of consistency, and this card is very strong early, but this is a deck that wants to go wide, so in the mid to late games, this card can be a little bit not as good, just because you will have to put cores on it to give it that BP boost because you'll have more than 2 spirits. And then for our last Pterosaur / Emperor Beast on the bottom end, we are going to be playing 1 Blazing Boar, which is just, you get to grab back a red spirit from your hand. There's a lot of reasons why I like this card, being able to just, if one of your vanillas dies, you can play this, grab it back, play it back out for free. You can grab back Andromeda to pop a Nexus. You can also makes it so that you can pitch cards off of Volcanic Canyon early. Like, let's say you have Nova in hand, but you don't have the rest of the combo. You can pitch that Nova and then later grab it off of Blazing Boar, for example, like that. So I thought this card was very good. I cited out a lot in faster matchups just because it is kind of a card that is meant for a little bit more value and slower, but versus things like purple and white, this card is super nice, but versus things like red, it usually just got cited out. But I really think it has a lot of value, so I liked it as a main deck card.
Yeah, it's crazy it doesn't have like a cost requirement for what you can get. It just gets any red thing.
Yeah. So it's very versatile in what you can get, because you can use it to be aggressive, you can use it to get combo pieces, you can use it to be more reckless with your volcanic draws. So it's very nice, and it works because it is an Emperor Beast.
Yeah.
Then we're going to be having 4 Siegwurm Nova, or just Siegwurm. This is pretty standard. I was actually playing just 3 of these, and I was playing 3 of every card in the combo. The Nova, the Big Bang, and 3 Andromedas, but there were so many aggro decks going into the metagame that I just wanted to have as much consistency of being able to heal back up as possible, so I decided to go back to 4, but this is pretty standard. And then 3 Andromeda. I went down to 3 because I was playing 4 and 2 Burning Forces, which counted for essentially 6 Nexus removals, is kind of how I saw it. But since we were having a more Pterosaur-focused package, I decided to cut 1 to go up 1 Burning Force, so that way not only do I have a way to still delete Nexuses, but it's also a very nice anti-aggro card, which again is something I was very worried about in this event. One Dark Bishop Baculus in the main deck, mostly just for white if I were to play against something like Enterprise Elk or whatever. I want to be able to strip their cores down. I do have a combo that we can go over later with the Sacred Thunderous Peaks, where if you can give your Nova confront with this, and then you can use the Sacred Thunderous Peaks to be able to refresh it, so then you're able to essentially pop 10k, confront, refresh, pop 10k, confront, and then if you set that up and then play Bishop Baculus, you can break essentially every white board. So I wanted to make sure to main deck it. I was really back and forth in keeping this or not, just because it is brick in most other matchups, but I felt like with how I just didn't want to tie, and so I just felt like the anti-tie card, so I wanted to play that one. But Dark Bishop Baculus, if you set up Nova, is also just very good, because if your opponent cores up to try to play around Nova, you can just Baculus, put them to 1, and then you clear board.
Yeah.
And then for the big boys, we got 3 Nova, of course. I only play the 3 Nova because I think it's just a little clunky. I have the same thing in like Digimon with Bond of Friendship, where I always played 3 and a lot of people played 4, because it's a card where you're playing 1 to 2 of it max a game, and so the 3rd can be a brick and the 4th can also be a potential brick. It does up the consistency, but there's a ton of draw in this deck, and it is a little bit more of an aggressive deck with just kind of that end game Nova if it does get there, or if you need that heal in the aggro matchups and stuff like that. So I just like it at 3 because that gives you as much room as possible. But yeah, obviously this card is absolutely insane. I love Nova and was really happy to be able to play it. And then to finish off the spirits, we are playing 2 Gagano Rex, and I wasn't the biggest fan of Rex going in this deck going into it. It really wasn't until a couple nights before that I was testing, and I really saw the value of this card in the red mirror, because it and also in white, because if you can get it out early, your opponent can't really stick things, or they have to swing, and it's also just a really big blocker. So it did work out in some matchups, but I will say that after this event, I would probably cut Gigano Rex and maybe switch up my Pterosaur Emperor Beast to include things like Dragon Arc or Rain Needle, some more aggressive low-end cards, and not have to stick to the whole Pterosaur Emperor Beast just to go with the Gigano Rex. I think just having a more aggro deck with the Nova is going to be a little bit better, but Gigano Rex did come in. There were a lot of times where you play this and it's just very hard for your opponent to answer, especially because a lot of the answers people have are things like Burning Force or Volcanic Break, and so being able to give plus 3k to your spirits just makes your boards really unbreakable.
Yeah, and would you say like this is probably more of a side deck package then, and more the higher end?
I think you could definitely, I think depending on how your main deck is, you could definitely side deck this, because it does have matchups where it's very nice. Like I said, it is very good in red, because one, it's like a 10k, so if they're playing Nova, they can only pop other things or this, and it's really easy to get 2 Rexes out, which makes it very hard for Nova to be able to like pop a board without having multiple Ice Shields, because they need multiple turns to be able to swing. So you could side deck it. I decided to main deck it just because the meta I was expecting to play wasn't exactly what I was expecting to play. I was expecting a little bit more white and a little bit more red, and I played 1 red and 1 white.
Yeah, okay. So you played 5 purple decks?
I played, I played 4 purple decks in Swiss.
Okay.
2. What did I play? I have it written down.
Okay.
I'll pull it up. I'll pull it up. We'll go through it though. Now going on into the Nexuses, I have 3 Volcanic Canyon. The reason I'm only playing 3 over 4, which a lot of other lists would be playing 4, is because I personally wanted to stick to 6 Nexuses, and for my 6 Nexuses, I decided to go with these, and I wanted to go with the Sacred Thundering Peaks for the combo that I mentioned before, where you can put your cores onto Siegwurm to give your spirits with Awaken Confront, so your Nova will have Confront, and then you can just go ahead and go crazy with it. And so I really liked it. But the other thing with this card is with the Grizzly, since it just refreshes anything, there are a lot of times where you can just put 3 cores on this to save them for like Ice Shield or whatever, and then just attack twice with Grizzly and be able to get that refresh restand. Scorched Battlefield is pretty standard. You want that 1k DP boost. It's very important to be able to get over a Enterprise with suppression, as well as also being able to get that draw. So I think it's fairly standard. If you didn't want to play the peaks, you could just go here or here. I was considering going to 3rd Scorched instead of the Sacred Peaks because of how aggressive the deck is, but I wanted to have as many avenues of play as I can with this deck, so that way if I get put into positions that I haven't been in before, I can try to find it out. Yeah,
and Volcanic just in general, like it's such a strong card for consistency though. Like if my opponent plays a turn 1, I'm like, oh my gosh, they get like 5-6 turns of just draw 1, discard 1, which is absurdly good in this game.
And with this deck, it's like really good too, because you get Volcanic out, you can play you start playing your vanillas, but you start to cycle to get to that combo or whatever cards that you need, Burning Force or anything like that. So Volcanic is absolutely insane. I do think Scorched is kind of required in the build though, because you do want to have 1k BP gain without having to put a core on Volcanic. And then also the draw is nice, because if you swing with 3 guys and draw 3 cards, you get so much value.
For sure. All right, and then to Magic,
Yep, going on to the Magic. So start off with the draws. I'm going with 4 Charged and 3 Star Blessed. A lot of lists are playing the 4 Star Blessed, and I decided to cut down 1 because I was trying to cut the dead cards in the deck. I noticed that when testing and watching these online events that were happening, that the win summoned count was dropping drastically, especially in the early game, and people were kind of playing around things like this or Counter Sword and stuff like that. So I just had so many games where I'd set Star Blessed and I'd have to get rid of it to put my Ice Shield out, and it just became a dead card, and it would be much better in my hand to play it. And so unless I'm playing against like Curse Purple, a lot of the times I don't set it anymore and I just play it. And so because of that, I found it to be not as strong, and there's still so much draw that the difference between 4 to 3 isn't that big. And again, I like this one because this is a burst, which is nice, but doesn't happen as much anymore, and this gives you plus 2k BP, so it's good for battle tricks. 3 Burning Force. I just think it's standard. Again, I talked about I wanted 6 Nexus removal cards, so I played the 3 Andromeda and then also played the 3 Burning Force. That way I had some sort of way to clear wide boards if my opponent started to vanilla me down. 3 Big Bang Energy, pretty standard. I was at 2. Shout out to my teammate Jesse for making me put a 3rd one in the night before, because I was actually playing the 4 Andromeda and I cut a Big Bang for the 3rd Burning Force, and then ended up changing it, and this actually ended up coming very big, because with the aggro decks in the metagame, you need to be able to Nova combo as fast as possible. For sure. And then to finish off the main deck, of course, we're going to have 4 Absolute Ice Shields. Shout out to my teammate Brandon for the foil Ice Shields. Of course, this card is absolutely beautiful. My boy Raccoon Guard back there, but that is going to be the main deck for options. I don't think I really need to say too much about Absolute Ice Shield. It's insane, especially when you're playing a deck that needs time to find its pieces to heal up.
And the fact that it does heal. You can go all the way down to 1 and then just get all the way back.
I did in this tournament have a thing where I had an Ice Shield set, and I let my opponent get me down to 1 health because I had Big Bang Siegwurm Nova in hand, and so I didn't want to burn my Ice Shield, and I got to gain 4 cores anyway. You got more cores back. And so once you go up to 5 and still have the Ice Shield set, it's starting the game over again, especially if Nova gets on the board, and you're just able to clear board, and very good. So then I can go into the side deck really quick. I will say that honestly, not the biggest fan of this side deck. I think I didn't have the greatest understanding of how to side in this event until after I played and kind of got a better feel of what a tournament scenario would be like. But this is what I did submit. I have 2 Snowflaken, which is armor red, and then when you block, you bounce something with Confront or Curse. I mostly wanted this to be able to bounce things like Dragonaga Assassin or Camelot Knight, but I also thought that if I played against the mirror match and they were playing the Gagano Rex, this is very nice because it essentially just bounces their Rex back to their hand. And also, this is a card where it's 4 core 6k, so you're going to be able to block something and like bounce something else. So this card was very nice. It came up a lot because I played mostly Purple Curse aggro. Then I got 2 Head Ice Maid Fulla, which I think is like almost a standard side card just because of the core reduction, but because I only played aggressive purple, I never sided this card. But if I were to change the side deck, I would still play it anyway. Then I played 1 Gun Knight Heavy Barrel and 1 Counter Sword. These were my anti-Nova. Essentially, I wanted something for Nova. And so with the Snowflaken, this gives me something for the Gagano Rex mirror version, and then just for the pure Nova, it gives me these. I was testing 2 Gun Knight Heavy Barrel, and it's a card that is good if you're able to just kind of get it before the Nova board, but it's not super crazy. But I wasn't able to find something else that was as good as the Heavy Barrel, because Counter Sword is nice, but this card is incredibly easy to play around, especially if your opponent knows how to play it, because you can either not pay the Soul Core, or you can double Nova on 1 turn and pop 2 6Ks, so that way if they Counter Sword, they can only bounce 1 Nova and you still get a Nova on the board. So as somebody who played against this card a lot, I just found it way too easy to play around, but it is still nice to just have as a little trick, because your opponent has to play around, is this going to be Counter Sword or is this going to be Ice Shield? I did side Counter Sword multiple times. I never sided Heavy Barrel because I didn't play the Nova Mirror. I just played versus the Pterosaur aggro. So I didn't actually side it. I don't know if I would side it going forward, but it was okay. Then we got 2 Dragon Arcs, and this is just anti-aggro, pretty much the same with Volcanic Break. There was a bunch of aggro decks. I didn't want to main deck this because I was trying to keep all my bottom end Pterosaur and Emperor Beasts. But this is a floodgate that stops your opponent from going in early with all those vanillas, and you can attack and pop. Volcanic Break is an anti-aggro card, but I actually cited this for yellow because they have all those luster cards like Caladrius or Shin, and you don't have a lot of ways to be able to delete them. And so if they go with like Michaela or anything like that and be able to swing, and you don't have a way to get through it or block it, then they just get all this value. So I found Volcanic Break to be very good. The thing is you don't really need to side for that matchup super hard, but I felt like I wanted to side something, and I figured this is good versus that, and it's good versus aggro, so why not? And then for the final side deck card, we have another Dark Bishop Baculus, which is just for the white matchup if I were to play against it. I play the 1 in the main deck, so that way if we go through the full deck, I can see it, but if I play 2, I have a much higher chance of being able to establish my board early and start to get ahead. But that is the full 60.
Nice. And real quick, best matchup, worst matchup for this deck?
Best matchup, it would have to be yellow God Beast or some sort of yellow, just because I feel like you have a lot of ways to answer what their deck is. I also think that the Curse Purple aggro, if they don't play like the Nemesis package, is also pretty good for you, just because you're able to establish, and then once you get Nova on the board, if you're just playing around Deadly Balance by having one of your vanillas on the board, it's basically impossible for them to get rid of the Nova. So I found that matchup to be not as bad, just because a lot of times if they go early, you ramp, you set a Nova, and now they can't ever get reduction crystals on the board, because if they play Nexus, you pop it. If they play Digimon, you pop them, and then you're able to still develop blockers. And so you can just play a game where you just swing Nova, and that's it, and just do that 5 turns in a row, and the game's over. Worst matchup is either like just red hyper aggro, because it's so fast and the things are such high DP that you can't Burning Force it as much as you could with a lot of the other, like white or purple have a lot of Burning Force targets. Red is much more in the 4+ range. So yeah, the red aggro, and then just white control in general, I think has to be a problem, just because with Enterprise, if you don't have the answer, they just lock you out with Elk Suppression, and you can't do too much, which is why I main decked the Dark Bishop Baculus because of that. But yeah, and then a lot of the other ones, I think Nova, if played well, has a good matchup versus most things, just because of how much game you have. With things like Confront, you have a bunch of draw. You have Nova, which both pops boards but also heals you. So like a lot of other decks, they just start with 5 cores in life, and that's what they have. But you essentially have 8 to 9 cores in life. And so, yeah, I was really happy with Nova for sure.
Cool. Well, really appreciate you sitting down with me. Any shout-outs before we end it out?
Yeah, of course. Shout out to my teammates on Team Icewall. They tested with me for this and, helped me out, and we all prepped together. So big shout out to them. Big shout out to my parents, because they were super hyped about the top. And shout out to all the homies. And shout out to all the Egg Manners.
Perfect. That's the group. So, well, thank you very much. Appreciate it, and have a good one.